Three, two, one, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Fours podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. These are our Cassian Fridays, finally released on a Friday.
Finally on Friday, correct.
Where we talk about all the Andor episodes, episode by episodes. Today, talking about Andor, Havana Nights. Sorry, I had to steal your joke.
Or Namor Nights. What was the name of the planet? I keep forgetting.
But all kidding aside, it's episode 7 announcement. But before we get into all that goodness, we want to introduce our guests for tonight. Dom, welcome to the Triad.
Hey,
Thank you so much
Dom,
for being
welcome.
here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you over. Like, obviously, we've been familiar with like your social media presence, and I was very lucky to have seen you at Star Wars Celebration at the Hispanic representation panel. So that kind of planted the seed of like, oh, that could be cool people to have over on the podcast. So once Andor premiere, I was like, oh, well, here we go. This is the time to invite all these fun people, especially with all the thematic relevance, right, of Andor and Diego Luna.
Oh, yeah.
Hispanic and Latino representation, all that stuff. Yeah. So very, very happy you're here. But before we get going, like we always try to do like a little, get to know our guests a little bit. This is the first time you've been like with us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your Star Wars journey? I mean, you obviously went to a lot more things than just Star Wars. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I think I'm like trying to remember. I think Andor was my first Star Wars like premiere going to, so that was really fun, especially because I'm a newer Star Wars fan. I'm 22 and I saw Rogue One. That was the first movie I ever saw. I saw it in theaters. Wow. And even if you don't know Star Wars, like the bases, Luke, Darth Vader. So when I went in there not really seeing most of these characters that everybody talked about, was a little confusing, but I think it was able for me to not have any like preconceived ideas about Star Wars. And it was really cool just to, start this story in Rogue One and see people that look like the people I grew up with, like Diego Luna looking like a lot of the people in my family. And I was like, oh, I thought Star Wars was just a bunch of white people. And then except in the prequels.
Which it has been,
yeah. So that's kind of much my journey. I'm here in California, and it's been really nice to slowly like dive into the fandom more. I didn't really grow up with Star Wars. Like I grew up with it there, but not really indulging. So it was nice to kind of find my own journey for it and just find community. And I was very fortunate, as you mentioned, to do the panel. And I think it was really nice because everybody's like, I've loved Star Wars since the moment I was born. And I was like, I'm very new here and I'm just happy to be here. But I feel like it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, specifically a Latina, Black, any person of color as a Star Wars fan.
No, I definitely agree. It's just, it kind of always makes me happy to hear when someone's Star Wars story is different.
It's different from ours.
The traditional one, right? Because for the most part, we're used to that. Well, I used to I saw the original trilogy when I was growing up, and it's like this kind of linear path, which is fine because that's our story for the most part. To hear like someone have something different and connect with it, especially through a different
Rogue One.
Through a different
especially,
film.
I think that's a really good way to come into the fandom through Rogue One because it was so good. That is one movie that I really was not expecting to hit as hard as it did. And I'm really glad to hear that it's actually bringing in new Star Wars fans. So
it was really great to rewatch it in theaters because when I watched it, I didn't know. It's like rewatching any movie when you have a more understanding or just as an adult. And I'm rewatching it and I'm like, I knew this movie hit, but I didn't realize how hard it hit, crying at moments because, I didn't really know anything or watch it, but now to see just like Diego's journey as an actor and to know that he was coming back, I think it just like touched a little part of me a little extra. And at the premiere, I did get to meet him. It was very, very brief, but he was walking into the theater. And I didn't want to be pushy because, it can be overwhelming for celebrities. I see people crowd celebrities and it's like, you just want to tell them how much they mean to you. Cause I'm an actor as well. So hearing that from someone would mean so much. So he was walking and me and my friend Emily were like, Diego. And he grabbed Emily's hand and I was right next to her. And I was like, we had just finished watching the episode. I was like, you mean so much to us. And we're so excited to see this and just thank you for everything. And I started crying. Emily started crying and he was like, thank you. It was a great moment.
He's such a kind person.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like he's the person he projects himself to be. Which is,
he is
genuine and humble. I mean, Nani also had like her.
I got him on the way out. Yeah. And you could tell he was in a hurry. And I was like, gracias. It's been such an honor. I'm so happy that you brought this to us. And he took the time and took the picture with me and everything. And you could tell he was in a hurry, but he's so appreciative, I think, of the fans. And he realizes how much he inspires us. And and really, I was shaking the whole time. I forgot how to use my phone.
Right? You're
it's like, what do I do?
I know.
And then he and I locked eyes. He's like, no time for you, bro. No time for you. Now I gotta go. I was like, well, okay, at least there was eye contact.
Yeah, but seriously, what a kind human being, and it speaks so much about how great an actor he is. This kind, super sweet person, to see the character that he portrays so believably as Andor. Especially those moments when he's a true asshole and pulls it off so well. It's really impressive.
Oh yeah. I'm like, why is that so hot? I
love it.
Because that's the thing. I think like he was amazing in Rogue One, but like he's like taking it to 11 here on Andor. And it's just like every episode, it's just like he just does a powerhouse performance. And I think this one was particularly poignant. I think. I mean, I don't want to like just go straight into the episode. We're having like really good pre Andor conversation, but like this one was really, really good, especially because I think it broke a little bit the pacing of what we've seen from the previous 6 episodes, and I think we'll get to that. But before we get into like episode 7 proper, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit like what you thought of the series so far? Like how do you feel about the last 6 episodes?
The last 6 episodes. So I've been loving it, but I just have a really hard time paying attention. And so if I turn away for a second, I'm like, wait, what's happening? And I'll rewind. So I definitely have to, it's kind of like a self-care moment when I'm going to watch Andor, because a lot of the shows that drop at midnight, I can kind of be like half asleep, but this is one that I want to be fully awake for. So I'll watch it because here in California, it drops right at midnight. I know. I'm like, you said you're in Chicago, so doesn't that drop like 3, 4 a.m.? I don't really know the time. Yeah. So that's even worse. So I wait until I'm refreshed and I can actually watch it, especially just because it's so good. And there's just, I mean, all of the Star Wars shows are so good for different reasons, but I think since this one is a little longer as in episode duration, and we're getting 12 episodes, right? I definitely want to be fully awake for it. So it's also been really nice because this is the first show I haven't felt pressured to post content about. I've just been able to just fully enjoy it as a consumer, and I really love it. And I like that it's kind of taking place before, but then, I do get a little sad when I'm like, I know what happened, what we're leading into, but I think it's really, really, really great. Episode 6 and 7 were definitely my favorite. I would say episode 3, 6, and 7 were definitely my favorites.
Have you liked this whole arc structure for the show, or do you feel that, especially, I mean, we were lucky to get the first 3 episodes together, so we were able to see them as as it was kind of meant to be seen, I guess. But like for the second arc, right, we got all of the episodes individually. Do you think that in a way has hurt like how we're consuming the show? Do you think we should have been getting like all the arcs as like Disney should be releasing the all the arcs at once? How do you feel like the arc structure has been working for the show?
Yeah, I think it definitely works for this show. I was actually talking to my brother about it because he hasn't been watching it, and he's like, I think I'm just gonna binge it. And I was like, for this show particularly, I think it really thrives like off of the week to week scheduling. I know there's some shows, there's other shows, like I think Obi-Wan did a good job at that too. I think in the Star Wars universe, Disney, I think that structure really works. I think for the Marvel shows, it would be a little better releasing kind of the project in its entirety, but it's also very smart move marketing wise, because it's like with like Stranger Things on Netflix, one of the biggest shows, but you're really kind of only in the media for like a week or so, and then people a month later like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice this. But when you're doing it week to week, there's a new conversation every week, and it gives your audience more time to digest everything and not feel overwhelmed. So I do think I think it's working.
No, I agree. Although because I was reading an article that came out, and and Star Wars fandom will always make something a debate that it shouldn't be about the engagement of Andor on Disney Plus versus like other Star Wars shows, and that's kind of like where my question comes from. It's just like, well, is the alleged low engagement that Andor has been getting on Disney Plus due to that arc structure that people are just like, well, I'll just wait till like it's out so then I can just watch it as a whole, because like there needs to be, because it does feel right, like each episode that you kind of need the next one a little bit. Like I do enjoy the weekly thing,
right?
Because we get to do this. We get to talk weekly and process it, and really dig into it, as opposed to, like you said, with Stranger Things, it's disappears into the ether, right? After you watch it and you forget about it. But but it's an interesting prospect to see, like, if this is something that specifically with Andor, if that's the reason it might be hurting the viewership, allegedly.
I don't know. It's a really difficult thing. One of my friends on TikTok was actually, I think she's referencing the same article, because I haven't seen a lot of my friends making content about it, and I don't know what it is. I feel like fans. A percentage of the fandom is never happy. Like, we want more, adult Star Wars content, and I feel like that's what Andor is doing. And kind of like what the article is saying, kind of a decrease. I don't want to say it's because we haven't really like known Andor aside from Rogue One, because we saw like the success of The Mandalorian. So I don't really know what the issue is. I'm thinking maybe it's the pacing. I can't really say. I know I'm enjoying it, and because I do like that it's so different and it doesn't feel rushed. And you kind of get to learn more about him, because we know him. We're getting to see how he becomes the person in Rogue One, the person that I love in Rogue One. So to see everything that he's been through to lead to that moment, I think that's why I really like it. And maybe just people, maybe if it's not Obi-Wan and Anakin, maybe people aren't excited, because they're like, well, I know he's just gonna die. But with Obi-Wan and Anakin, they were like, well, it's these iconic characters.
But we still know they were gonna die.
Exactly. So I don't. That's the only theory I really have, but who knows?
Who knows? Because my concern with this is that Lucasfilm / Disney gets the wrong idea from it. It's just like, oh well, we didn't get that engagement, so let's do less of this type of thing, because marketing reasons and numbers and accounting. And for me, it's just like, but we can have space for
different angles.
Especially it's such a weird thing.
That something gets criticized for being different when they want different, but then it's too different, so that's a problem. But no, I really love that every single episode, like, it does keep me wanting more. So even though I kind of do wish that I want to binge it, it just gives me all that expectation. So by the time we get to the next episode, it's like, what's gonna happen?
It also gives you something to look forward to in the week, especially like if you have like a hard week. Like, I didn't watch Andor. I didn't watch it this episode at midnight, but I did watch it like later in the day when I came home from work. My dad's like, we need to get back on Andor. Like, what's going on? We were binging shows right at midnight. He's like, we need to get back on that. So we both watched episode 6 separately, and then we watched 7 together. And I think that I do well more so watching shows with people, because I normally watch the Marvel and Star Wars shows with my family. And I think you just enjoy it more. He noticed the stuff that I don't. I noticed stuff that he didn't. He'll be like, wait, what did they say? And I'm like, oh, that's a reference to that. And he's like, well, that's a reference to that. So I think it's really fun to bring all those lenses together. And I'm wondering if maybe if Star Wars will stick to the show format as opposed to the movies, because I mean, I like every Star Wars piece for a different reason. Like, I liked the sequels. I was still, again, a very newer Star Wars fan. I actually like binged all the Star Wars movies before. I think it was what was the last one in the sequels called? Is it The Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
So I binged them all
before Rise came out.
Yeah. And so I was like on a Star Wars high, ready to watch ready to watch it. And I liked them for what they were. And you know, people criticize the sequels. And I feel like it's just everything. People criticize the prequels and now everybody loves the prequel. I think it's just that thing with time. So I'm wondering, because of the criticism of the prequels, if Star Wars is gonna shy away from movies and more onto streaming platforms, because that's where, you know, it's just so accessible, because not everybody has a car or accessibility. But I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe this would have done better as a movie, but then you wouldn't get to see as much of him. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I do like the cinematic Star Wars experience. I mean, that's how I saw Star Wars for the first time in the big screen, and I do think that there should always be a space for it. Because, you know, I think the going to the movie theater is like a very special experience, and Star Wars, seeing it there, it's like nothing compares to it. Because even, I mean, we were all privileged to have seen the first 3 episodes at Capitan, and that
to experience the audience reactions and you know the ambience of the crowd and the sounds obviously coming from the big speakers, and it is a different experience. But I do enjoy 100%. When it's a show like this one that's so character driven that you get more time with them. So you get to have that slow burn, and you get to have the exploration of the characters' motivations and where they're coming from, and then you understand what they're doing. And especially in an episode like this one, episode 7, coming after the heist episode, which you're like on this high of like adrenaline, then you kind of slow it down to get to feel the repercussions of everything that happened, you know, to a lot of those characters, is what makes this one really special. So I think we should start talking about announcements.
Let's start talking about announcements. Dom, what did you think? We obviously were talking contextually about the previous 6 episodes of Star Wars as a whole, but let's get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak. What did you think of episode 7 announcements? How did it rock your world? Do you think it was a appropriate follow up to the heist, to the eye?
I think I really liked it. The main thing I liked, and this might just be like the black girl in me, but when I saw him on that planet with that black girl in his bed, I was like, like, you know, that TikTok audio, a win is a win. That's you know, that romanticizing of fictional characters, like he would date a black girl. I'm like, well, there's the proof. So that was
validation.
The validation that I needed. But I really did like kind of him going back, because he did leave. We saw, you know, him just leaving so abruptly, and I didn't really think he was ever gonna go back there. So to see him kind of go back there and say without saying, come with me, and you know, his life, kind of like, I want to leave this life, but I don't want to leave the people that impacted me. Like, no, we're not gonna go with you. And just to see, you know, kind of how hard that was for him. And I know it's because he's wanted as well, but for him to, you know, adopt a new identity and just kind of like on the run. And I think we're slowly getting into him becoming that person that we see in Rogue One, like the lone wolf. And but you know, on the outside, you're like, I don't know about this guy, but then you get to know him, and you just he loves the people in his life. That's why he didn't just leave them. And even with his sister, they're like, stop looking for your sister. I feel like even after that statement, he won't stop. Even
I don't think he's gonna give up until he has like actual proof that
How about you, Nani? What do you think of episode 7?
I thought he would return to Ferrix, but not right now. I thought it was going to take long. So I was really surprised that they did that so soon. I was kind of screaming at him the entire episode, like, you're smarter than this. Why would you bring all the hell that's after you to the people you love? It's too soon. But then when the conversations were happening, I forgot that he didn't know, he had no idea how bad it was. He didn't know that it was Tim that betrayed him. He didn't know that the Empire had made an actual occupation, because, you know, for us, it's been a few weeks, but for him, it's been literally like 5 days or something since everything happened. So you kind of forget the context of everything. But there was something very lovely about this episode in the fact that we're doing all the consequences, but we're doing it in the slow conversational way of how it's affecting everybody. And I think a lot of what this episode was drawing clear lines between the ideologies of all these different characters. So we're starting to see a break between Luthen and Mon Mothma, between Andor and Luthen, between Andor and Bix and Marva, between Cyril and what he thinks is expected of him versus what he's expecting of himself, and between the ISB itself and who they believe are competent employees and incompetent employees. So it's creating a divided line now between who believes the rebellion is real, who believes the rebellion needs to be squashed already, who believes it should be ignored, who thinks it should be joined into. So we're seeing people starting to pick clear sides. And it's very interesting that it's because who knows how long this has been happening behind the scenes, but this is like the first televised incident of the Empire getting hoodwinked. So I thought it was masterfully done and incredibly well written, the conversations and everything. So it was
such a good episode, precisely because of that, because we got to catch up with every single character we've met so far. We got to obviously see Biggs, we got to see Marva,
the ones who are still alive.
My boy, we're never gonna see my boy Nemec. May he rest in peace. But we got to see Marva, who I think was like the best part of today's episode of last episode. I mean, her speech that he says to Andor about like how they're never gonna catch her because you know, as long as she's got her mind and her rebellion, like they'll never find her. It's like, oh my god, that's so good.
I know, and she was kind of the best part of the first trilogy of episodes too. I feel like Marva is just like amazing.
And that whole part, you know, when like he's like not understanding, it's like, oh, why are you doing it? And she's just like, well, that's just love. And I was just like, oh man, you got me.
That one made me cry.
I was just like,
it's like it's love, there's nothing you can do about it. I've loved you more than anything ever, and that's just it. You can't understand.
It hit hard. So like but I think that was the interesting thing then of like having to go back to Ferrex, because we see like how everyone's, to use Marva's words, reckoning with the consequences of like Cassian's misadventures or adventures, however you want to call them. Because like on the one hand, you have Biggs, right, who was like the strong, you know, woman leader of her community and of, you know, her business and whatnot. And then when Cassian comes back to her, all of a sudden she's kind of broken down, like she's at the foot of oppression of the Empire, and like it's made her a completely different person at this point. And so I kind of hope we get to see Bix again, because she's one of my favorite characters, and hopefully we get to like see that maybe a 180 and she can turn around and like, do like rebellion in Ferrex and free the system,
and maybe find her way again, because Marva is clearly gonna do something, because she found hope in this.
Yes,
that one line when she says like, when I heard about this, I put on my best coat and walked down the street with a smile on my face. And now I'm too old to give a damn. I'm gonna rebel. So hopefully she'll be able to, you know, call her community together, and Bix will find her place in there and stop, you know, thinking of herself as somebody that just slams into a wall and that's all that she can do, because she's so much more than that.
Yeah, but that's a cool, but not cool and a good thing. But like interesting how the show framed it, like how these two people are dealing with like trauma and oppression.
Yeah,
like, and one has been like emotionally broken. When, I mean, to be fair, she saw her loser boyfriend get shot in front of her.
Loser boyfriend left her, and then ex-boyfriend, who she still kind of mess with, left. Yeah. So she's like,
everybody sucks.
Everybody sucks. But then you got Marva, God bless her soul, who's just like, hey man, they hung my husband at the town square, and like I've always been frightened. But like now I'm like you said,
I'm getting payback.
Now she's empowered, even if it's
liberated.
Which sometimes that's more important. It's just like having that strength in your mind is more important than what you outwardly do.
And you have Andor's reaction too, because when he hears Marva speak about what happened in Aldani, she's referring to them as heroes. And he's here like, it was just a robbery, because Andor himself only sees himself as a thief. So we're not at that point where he actually thinks that he's making a difference. So hopefully with this conversation with Marva, combined with the fact that he still has that manifesto, which I hope he's keeping in his notes, we'll get there eventually. And like you were saying at the beginning, he's already been profiled twice with the corpos at the beginning and now again at the beach. So come on, start opening your eyes, man.
Oh no, I think this is the big one. But yeah, Cassian just reminds me at this point in his story so much of Jin in Rogue One, especially like that scene when Jin is talking to Saw Gerrera, and Saw is telling her like, oh, how can you live seeing like the Imperial flags, whatever that quote goes, and she's like, oh, it's not a problem if you don't look up. And like that's how Cassian is living right now. He's just like, well, like I know it's a problem. I'm angry about it, but I'm keeping my head down and just trying to live my life and run away from consequences. And I think this was the episode of like him realizing that you can't run away from your problems because they will catch up to you in some way, shape, or form. But what did everyone think of that scene from when we get to the Imperial Security Bureau and we get that glorious cameo from Wolf Julaur just telling everyone, what's gonna be happening because
we're tightening the fist.
Because the Emperor's gonna tighten up the fist of the Empire of oppression. How did everyone? And that scene coupled with, I forgot the dude's name, but when he starts calling Dedra out, and Dedra's just like, well,
Levin, something like that.
And then Dedra's just like, well, I'm gonna show you why you're dumb and why I'm doing the things I'm doing. It's her getting her due reward. What did everyone think of like all the Imperial Security Bureau scenes? Don, let's start with you.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat? It was like cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh no, don't worry. All the two scenes from the Imperial Security Bureau. One from Julaur coming in to discuss like how the Empire is gonna start tightening the grip and like being actually like oppression and all
like
the systems.
They are not prepared to how we're gonna react. We are going to.
Yeah. Oh, we're ready whenever.
And then the next scene when like I forget the dude's name, but the guy that was stationed up for Ferrix calling Dedra out, and then Dedra, telling
being
her,
like, I'm prepared.
Yeah. What did we think of like those Imperial Security Bureau scenes?
Yeah, I think that's really kind of like setting up, because we have to take it back and think, because we know Star Wars in its entirety and we know how the Empire is, but even when I was watching like Rogue One, I had to take myself out of the mentality. I'm like, the Empire is like not this big bad thing yet, like because the Death Star hasn't even been built yet, and it's interesting to see the events that lead them to be just like terrible and who they are and what has influenced that. Kind of like I forget her name. She was the blonde one that was kind of leading the whole high. She was Bell. Telling them like, Bell was telling them. He's like, oh, you're going to kill us either way. And she's like, we're not like you. We're not like you. We get what we want and we mind our business and everyone goes home. And I think we're starting to, it's slowly breaking the surface of just how evil the Empire is and how big it's going to become. And I thought it was a very like small moment, but it's a bunch of small moments that lead up to the big moments.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've never really gotten to see like the Imperial bureaucracy and like how all these decisions get made, because all we get usually is just like Papa Palpatine being like, destroy things, go. So I do love
plans on top of plans.
I do love how they're talking about like, putting the boots on more on these rebels because we're going to destroy them because they're not prepared to us, and then cut to Deirdre being like, I'm pissed. They're playing right into their hands. This is exactly what they want. How are they so short-sighted? I mean, they're treating this as a robbery, and the dude's like, what should you call it? An announcement. Cue credits. But it's exactly what it is. They should treat it as, look, the rebellion is real. We need to take it seriously. We can't just pretend that it's not there and then just oppress everybody, oppressing people who probably didn't have any sympathies toward the rebellion because they're getting so oppressed. Now they will feel that they need to join the rebellion. And then you cue that into Mon Mothma and Luthen kind of breaking down. because it's having the same conversation. What are you doing? This was a terrible idea. People are going to suffer. And Luthen being like, well, that's part of the plan.
You need to wake them up.
Yeah. I mean, they've been cutting off our rights so slowly that we kind of haven't even noticed that it's really happening. So we need to force their hand. We need it to be active. So people get inspired by it. But, you know, it kind of breaks the philosophy between Mothma and Luthen then. And then you go to the ISB then with that other dude trying to like outsmart Deidre without noticing that she was doing it completely on purpose. From the moment that she went to get information and she said, this is completely confidential, only show it in my office, she knew they were going to show it behind her back and that she was going to be prepared to call them out for it. So every single time that she wins something, I cheer for her, regardless of the fact that she's Empire. She's so intelligent. She's one of the few actual competent officers. So every time she gets a win, it's like, yeah, you should listen to her. But then even the boss is like, well played, watch your back, because they're gonna come after her now because she's actually doing her job. Oh, we're coming after you.
Not doing her job competently, which is obviously like a big threat for incompetent men, which I think is the most important part of that scene. It's like she's one of the few women there in that conference room, and she's probably the smartest person in the room, and obviously her coworker is threatened by it. So like,
I do love her also calling out, which is something that conquerors do all the time. That, oh, do you think they're gonna care about the lines that we draw on a map? That is exactly what empires do. They draw imaginary lines that have nothing to do with the people that actually live in those countries. So I love those calls to, you know, colonialism and you know, just
I think that's something that Star Wars is really good at. Really good at that. And maybe that's why the numbers are low or whatever, but those are stories that I really like. People don't realize people think Star Wars is just all, you know, space cowboys,
lightsabers and the
lightsaber
Force.
duels and the Force, but it's literally a story. I've watched like video diaries and stuff and video analysis of how deep it is, and you can really see it in Andor, like just with Marva and Bix, like that's kind of two traditional like coping mechanisms with oppression, and I think maybe that's kind of played into my love for Rogue One, just, you know, with everything that's happening in the world, with so many marginalized groups being oppressed and people rising up, and there's people who are like, I'm for the cause, but like what Jen said, it doesn't bother you if you don't look up. Like, oh, if it doesn't really affect me, then it's fine. And then there's people that like I mean, how Jen later becomes and Cassian that literally die for this cause. Yeah, I might not make it, but this will benefit. It's not just about me; it's about everyone else. And I love that Andor is leading into that story, and I don't think some people really realize that. And then you start to analyze, and people are like, oh, you're turning it into this, and I'm like, turning it into this. It's right in front of me. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, it's always like it's that camp of people that like just refuse to acknowledge that Star Wars always has been and always will be. I mean, any media is political because like everything it's made through the lens of the people that are writing it or filming it or whatever that method of creation is. So like it's necessarily imbued with those points of view. And I mean, and like the people that want to refuse the politics of Star Wars are the people that don't agree with those politics, but still want to be able to enjoy it for some reason, which I get. I mean, practice death of the author if you must, and like detach yourself from those politics, but don't be naive enough to disregard that they're there, because the man himself, George Lucas, since day one, he's been like, no, this is not just like modern mythology, but this is inspired by my politics, and and George Lucas is a radical lefty, so so we have to embrace it. I mean, I'm loving it.
I'm loving every second.
I know, and especially here, because it is the story not only of the immigrant, but of the oppressed in general, because we see how even on the Empire side, Deidre, for being a woman and for being diligent, is being oppressed in her own work. And then we have the other really, really interesting character, who is Cyril. What are we thinking?
He's rewarded because he's a white man of privilege who has connections. It's like, okay, we'll make your problems disappear and we'll get
but
you.
But was he really rewarded ending up in that sad cubicle like he did?
Some people want that. Some people want that corporate life, you know. Though
some people want that.
But look at his face.
Oh, that's not what he wants.
Said it all.
That's not what he wants. But you know what I'm getting at, though. What I'm getting at is like some people
about Cyril so far, because this is a character that has actually really surprised me. I mean, the acting has been superb, obviously, but the character keeps getting more interesting every single episode. So
yeah, I think we see the Cyril type of character in all types of media. The one that comes to mind, because I just saw it, is Halloween Ends, but I don't want to like spoil the movie. But there's a character that's very much like Cyril, and basically it's kind of like, you know, that this person is intelligent and could do great things, but they're listening to the naysayers, to their moms, like the people with the moms in the ear that are like, you're not going to do anything because you're this way. And he's just,
or you're not good enough. And
yeah. And I'm just waiting for that moment for him to snap, and either snap by, like, I don't know what that looks like for him, whether it's snap physically or somebody, or I think it's going to be more like a typical like break, like I think he's just gonna lose it in an episode. You know, the hair, his gelled hair, there's gonna be like a loose one right here. The vein's gonna pop out. I think that's gonna happen. And then somebody's gonna acknowledge like, oh, wow, this dude actually does know what he's talking about. Or he might just be those people that just succumb to that. But with this show, I think he's gonna break out of that cubicle and push himself to be where he be where he belongs.
Right, because that last shot was so compelling, because again, and it's the success I think that the show has been achieving in terms of like the commentary that it's making about so many things. It's up until now, right? It's been like, you know, the immigrant's journey and like racism and oppression and fascism, all those things. But now with this episode, it's just like, but don't forget that another form of oppression is the corporate America, and here's what it looks like. So like it zooms out, it's like cubicle on top of cubicle, and it's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy is what a gift. I mean, him and all the writers of the show like have really been doing such a good job. Again, of like talking about all of these things, making it Star Wars, but still making it so relevant,
grounded, and real. Yeah.
I
mean, even where he had the job, it was called like the Bureau Standards. I mean, it's just about making everything the same. And I remember that, I think it was with Molly and Alex from Star Wars Explained, that we were talking about the possibility of Cyril maybe being turned. I started to think that maybe he wouldn't be, but with this episode now, I think that he might, because he's starting to see like that sanitation of the Empire, and the fact that, let me get my thought out, I might be completely wrong, but, or it might mean him like trying to revolutionize the Empire from the inside, because he's been seeing this pattern of trying to make everybody the same and do the same thing and look the same and everything. And you can see that he's always tried to be different. Like he would tailor his suit. He wanted to go do the interview in a place where everybody's dressed in black, in a blue suit, in a brown suit, And he's always on purpose tried to stand out, even when his bosses are telling like, stand down, you're done, go away quietly. He's always wanted to excel and be above the norm. So I think, you know, he might just completely snap. I still think he and Deidre have to meet at some point.
That's gonna happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally. But I think it could go either way. Either he will try to revolutionize the Empire from the inside, or he might actually be turned and like, oh, if I join the rebellion, I can actually be recognized as something other than an ass sitting inside of a cubicle.
Yeah, than a number.
Yeah, than a number.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like everything we're talking about, like how you said, Gustavo, that aspect of corporate America. And you know, there are some people that like that, but that they want the 9-to-5 job, but I feel like a lot of millennials and Gen Z are unlearning kind of that, because you know, I'm like that weird zillennial where I share the experiences with millennials and Gen Z, but still, you know, in school you're taught go to school, go to college, and you have a good job. Well, I mean, maybe it was my major because I majored in acting, but I graduated college in May, and I'm like thinking I'm not in a rush to move out or anything, but I want to be closer to LA eventually. And I'm just like, how am I supposed to, how am I supposed to live, laugh, love, and move out? How am I supposed to make money
while you work?
How am I supposed to make money, have fun, have friends, a relationship, and just, have time for myself to be like a well-grounded human being in society?
Right.
Without either, I have friends that make good money that have more traditional jobs, but they work like 40 plus hours, and they're like, I'm like, can you hang out? They're like, no, I gotta make money. And I'm like, respect, but I'm also like, you're gonna make all this money and not have, there's that weird balance. And it's really nice to see people, like, I know some people who have made money but don't do the traditional 9 to 5, and it's showing that it's possible. And I really like the commentary that it made with like Cyril being in this cubicle. Like, as soon as I saw that last shot, like,
panning out, and then everybody's just the same.
I was like, that sounds so miserable. In my opinion.
And those cubicles were actually spacious, because a lot of real life cubicles are not like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too, because you have to compare that, because that's obviously the corporate environment is also like equalizing, but like in that sterile way, right? It's like you're just a cog of the machine, and you're like in this environment where like everyone is just that assigned number. And it's the same thing that the Empire is doing, right, with stormtroopers and like all that military. As we see the clone troopers that we see in the flashback, they don't have like all the colored markings from the 501st and like all the different battalions. They've been sanitized.
Trying to be individualized, not anymore.
Everyone is the same. Everyone's literally whitewashed, and so it's the same. Like the Empire is doing it through their military might, and then the corporate entity, which is always one and the same. Like, because corporate and government, go hand in hand. They're two very literal and fierce forms of oppression, and they do it in the same methods. They look different, but it's the same methods with the same results, I think. So I think that was a really interesting.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about something that now you were mentioning about Mon Mothma and Luthen, because I mean, I don't want to slander the woman. I think Mon Mothma is amazing and she slays every scene. But I think it was very interesting when then she has that conversation with Luthen, and then she goes all Nancy Pelosi on me all of a sudden, and she's just like, oh well, we're talking about change, but like we're not gonna do anything. I was just like, girl, come on. It's just like I was a little disappointed with her in that scene. Just like
I don't think
put words into action.
No, I think that with Mon Mothma, and especially because then we get that dinner party, which was great. I'm so happy you got it.
No Sly Moore though. I was hoping.
I know there was no Sly Moore, and it wasn't the actual awkward dinner setting that I wanted. It was more moving around, but it was still awesome, great. And her acting was fantastic as well.
Oh yeah,
but I think she's still at the point that she still has too many options, because she's still in the Senate. The Senate has not been dissolved. She doesn't have access to her money, but she does have massive family funds. So she will always try to go the least violent path available to her. So she thought the best course of action was to talk to his banker friend to try to get access to the funds, who I still don't trust for shit. While Luthen is still trying, to be adding more people is the worst thing that you can possibly do. The network is up. We have to start using the network and see if it's effective. And people will die and people will suffer, but they will suffer more if we allow the regime to continue. So it's two different point of views. And I think she'll come around to that way of thinking. I think because she might be betrayed by this banker friend. I don't know. Things are going to go wrong for Mon Mothma, and we know it, because we never heard about her having a daughter, and we never heard her about having a husband. And,
I did like that she called her husband out. She's like, oh, no, we can't trust Perrin. And I was like, girl. Yes, divorce his ass.
I know.
But Don, what do you think? Do we think we can trust her friend, the banker? Or how do you feel?
Maybe it's just the trust issues, but I don't really trust. I don't really trust anyone. And I know maybe I shouldn't. I only trust Cassian. Like I don't really trust Luthen. I don't trust Mon Mothma. I feel like everybody
has their own agenda.
And and Luthen, they have they think that they have the same idea with what they want, but the executions are very different. And because of that, they don't truly want the same thing. I feel like Mon Mothma might be one of those people that are just kind of like, you know, a lot, hopefully I'm wrong, but kind of more talk, like you said, like Nancy Pelosi, all talk, no action. And it's like, oh, are you just saying that because that's things we want to hear? Or are you actually like willing to die for the cause? And not everybody is like that. And you know, everybody has their own like, oh, well, you can love something and care about change, but not want to die for it. But I'm like, how are you? Yeah, you want to be the part, you want to see the change, but I would rather be the change and not live to see it, but change it for everybody else than just stay in the system. If you're not trying to actively fix the system, then you're just compliant to the system. And I feel like hopefully she proves us a little wrong, but I feel like that's kind of where Mon Mothma falls in that, well, I recognize there's issues, but it's like, it's not that bad.
Right.
Not yet.
And that's why I would like to like know more about Luthen's background, because from what we've seen, he's in a privileged position in Coruscanti society, right? Like,
Vel too.
Fancy.
I wasn't expecting Vel to be like high society.
Yeah.
And how was she connected to Luthen, and how did this start? like what were their personal motivations to hate the Empire when clearly they're pretty well off?
But have like that this like of the Empire to the extent that they're willing to like do what things that they're doing, because with Mon Mothma it's a little easier to understand like why she's a little more resistant to like get her hands dirty, so to speak, because you know she's a wealthy white woman, you know, with a very privileged position, and it's like
with a kid,
like what happens with many like you know suburban white liberals. It's just like, well, I advocate for the cause as long as it's comfortable for me to do so. It's just like, oh, but if I have to get inconvenience, then I'm just like, maybe.
Well,
like,
and she's clearly very wealthy as well. So
extremely. So I mean, so we do know that she changes, but like obviously, like her position, I think it's understandable
as of right now,
because we see it. Like, we see all these rich white liberals that are all talk, but then at the end of the day, won't donate to any cause or won't go to the street for a protest or won't do anything for the things that they
donate. But donating is not necessarily enough, you know.
No,
you can actually go and advocate, and you know. Because at this point she's just trying to get funds, because that's what she said. She's trying to get funds, but how does she expect the funds to be used?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
you know,
because
that's what Luthen says. We're in the middle of a revolution. It's expensive, yes, but once we secure the money, like, what do you think the money's going to be useful to, like, get everybody puppies?
We're gonna get Girl Scout cookies for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, win the rebellion through Thin Mints, which might work. I don't know. Thin Mints are amazing.
Thin Mints are amazing.
But pretty good in the freezer.
Oh yes, in the freezer.
The little crunch. Yep.
Oh my god! Can it just be Girl Scout season again, please?
I see.
Anyway.
I think it is. I think it's starting.
I'm like, it needs to always be Girl Scout season.
They should sell those all year round. It's just like, Girl Scouts are missing out on millions of dollars of profit.
Billions of my dollars.
Yes. But oh well, they must know what they're doing.
Yeah, they've been successfully doing it for decades. But so I have a question to place to all of you, because I thought the conversation between Luthen's secretary and Vel was kind of sketch. That whole thing about, oh yeah, he definitely read the message, but sending messages are dangerous. And yeah, your girlfriend is fine. She's actually doing her job. I'm not giving you any information, but get rid of this loose end for me, Cassian Andor. So you mean kill him? I'm not actually telling you, but yeah, walk away. So what do we think about that conversation?
I don't think much. Go.
Yeah. No, I think it just goes to like everybody, you know, wanting to be a part of this, but not really having a clear vision of how we're gonna go about it. And I don't know, but yeah, I did see that, and I was like, oh, so we're just gonna like, didn't he help? Like, yeah, he's not for the cause yet, but he was for the cause enough to put his life out there. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It was weird because I mean, we had that whole like the blue Kyber that he gave to Andor, and clearly it's involved with a rebellion that I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know that much about the extended universe. That clearly he says that the Kyber is involved with some sort of rebellion, which is clearly more important to Luthen than anything, because he said the monetary value isn't what I care about. This is like a family heirloom. It's important, and the fact that Andor gave it back was a test, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that when Vel said that, did he get my message? I think she was returning the crystal, as in Andor passed your test. So the secretary saying that tied this loose end, I'm thinking that might have not been Luthen's order. That she might think that Andor is unnecessary and she's deciding to get rid of him.
Totally. I think that too.
Yeah. I feel there's something sketch because, and I do understand that when you're doing a revolution at this level with so much surveillance already, you have to keep secrets.
Yeah.
But once people kind of start earning their trust, if you continue to distrust continually, that's how things fall apart. So it is very interesting how this arc is going to end up. And then the last one that we see, how they're planning to frame all of this. But
yeah.
I keep thinking that the show starts to hit its peak and then it kind of slows all the way back down to hit another peak. So I actually think the pacing is really good.
Yeah,
so.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
and to that point, I think one of the more impressive sequences of the show of this episode was that that boardwalk, beach boardwalk planet with Cassian living under the assumed name. It was so poignant because I mean, one beach planets. Every time I see one, I was like, okay, let's go, almost home. Let's keep it culturally relevant. Even though apparently they filmed it in the UK, which I was just like, oh, never mind. So not tropical, but at least you made it almost seem like it was. But then seeing Cassian like believe that he actually got away with it and be like with his new girlfriend, more power to him. It's like, you do what you gotta do, my dude, but then still living, like, oh, I gotta count my money with the shower running because
and whatever they were buying sounded, like illicit stuff. A little bit, like
maybe
but some party favors here and there. Like, I got away with it. I'm sad because I don't have my family anymore, but got a hot chick in my bed and I got some credits under my shower, and
But then obviously that the illusion is shattered, right? Because as far as you run, like you can go to a tropical paradise, but oppression is still gonna be there. Like all the probe droids kind of running around. It's just and it's what was said at the beginning of the episode. Oh, always watch your back, and that's literally what he's living in fear.
Doing.
He thinks that he ran away, but he didn't. He's still looking behind his back, and what happens when he looks behind his back? Goddamn shore trooper there, just waiting.
Shore trooper, that's a shore trooper.
and then the kids running away. But it was an amazing scene when I saw a really bad take on I think it was YouTube or Twitter, someone saying like, what was wrong with that shore trooper? That just didn't make sense. And I'm like, my dude, have you ever read the news of racial profiling? Right. It's just like, there's a reason we say all cops are bastards. It's just like, there's a reason for that phrase. And that cop, that shore trooper, was the epitome of that.
Like, in a you look sweaty. Power. Why do you have a strange accent? You were running. Those are your friends.
Were you born here?
And that happens every day.
And straight up logic. Every day. Why are you running? I'm not running. I'm standing in front of you.
You need to calm down, sir. I am calm.
I am calm. And it's also like in those situations, like I'm trying to be calm, but also you're accusing me. That I feel like that's a natural reaction for people. For people. How many times did I tell you that no? I'm
sweating. It's hot. But you were running. I'm not running. I'm going to the store.
It's my God. And then right there.
Right. And then the horrible, ambiguous instructions to the K unit It's like, just, you know, hang around because I have to do this. Hang?
I was like,
no, he meant watch.
No.
What a cool framing when the K unit's like walking out and everyone's like, oh, we're gonna hear
Freaking
Alan Tudyk's
out.
voice now. She's like, no.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk.
No, not yet.
They make more than one. But what did y'all think of like I mean, we've been talking about all the implicit politics in this episode and Andor as a whole, but particularly of that, you know, the racial profiling scene.
Yeah.
What did it hit the right way? Do you think it was awkward? Did it do what it needed to do for what Andor is trying to say about displacement and immigrants and fascism and oppression? Don, what do you think about that scene?
To me, it didn't start to hit me until the unit came, because at first I thought that he was just paranoid. And
he was gonna wake up and it was dreaming or something.
No, not necessarily that, but just like
he wouldn't actually get caught for that because he's just like,
I thought he was just being paranoid, you know, because you know he's wanted and he just committed another crime. So you're kind of like, what? And then they're like, I wasn't talking to you. So then when I realized that it was a reality, I think it started to hit more, because I feel like that's something even that I go through, you know, being of lighter complexion up until, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement really started to like popularize. I never would think about these things. Like, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm Black. I didn't know that was a problem, and that I should be whenever I get pulled over, be like, you know, gripping the wheel, saying, telling Siri, start recording, you know. And I think that's, some people might not grasp it, because I want it's nice hearing other people's opinions, like, oh, I didn't see that. And as you know, as a person of color, kind of like that switch, thinking like, oh no, they're not watching me, like I'm just paranoid. And then they're like, no, we are watching you. And it's just how, as a person of color, you have to exist in this world and just take care of yourself. It's like, take care of yourself, don't look too suspicious. But you're like, but I was literally just walking, like, you know, with Elijah McClain, like literally just wearing a hoodie, and you're, you know, going out, like, and then, you know, the element of being a woman, it's like, doesn't matter what you're wearing, but you have to be aware of what you're wearing, because people are going to use that against you. So I think for me, it really did hit.
Yeah.
Nani, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, it was honestly painful to watch, because as Dom was saying, he's been guilty of things, but nothing on this planet at all. Right. So, you know, he has like kind of this right to like be suspicious, but in the one planet that he literally was just walking to the store, minding his own business, gets profiled, gets dragged in, and then a sentence that was supposed to be 6 months becomes 6 years because of them changing all these laws now against everything that happened to Aldani. So it's like, what happened that he thought he could run away from, biting him in the ass without him using his actual name? Because if they knew who he really was, which is gonna show up somewhere, because somebody's gonna find out, obviously. It's gonna be even worse. But he has to realize at this point that no place is safe unless he starts to understand what Marva was saying to him, what Nemik was trying to say to him. Like, they always can't get you in your head. Yeah. And I thought, just to point it out, that it was so strange to me how everybody got processed like old school, like credit cards.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're done. You don't even get to say anything in your favor, anything against you, nothing, whatever. This is what you did. This is your penalty. Don't make it worse for yourself. Add more penalty.
No due process.
Processed.
Yep. I just love how that courtroom looked like one of the crappy courtrooms that you see, like in like all those
with the fan and the thing, and it's like, but I'm a tourist. I'm a tourist. Then we apologize to you profusely. 6 years. And speaking to, you know, oppression, you go from that scene to the horrible cubicle scene. So it's, you know, it's all different types of oppression.
Some prisons, some prisons are completely different. Some prisons you can walk out of, but they're still a prison because you have to willingly go back to it. It was just an interesting thing.
So it kind of all came full circle.
Can you imagine that? You like you go and do like this multi-million-dollar heist in Aldani, all of a sudden like you're chilling, minding your own business, and that's what they catch you for just
because
looking
people
different.
were protesting, exercising their right to free speech. Obviously, that doesn't exist in the empire. And they ran away, and now, something that was, even the judge herself was just like, that's a shame. It used to be 6 months, 6 years. Boom. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a problem? Pick it up with Palpatine.
She's just doing her job.
Yeah. Yep. She's like,
but
I get paid to just swipe.
But I did love that. Take it up with Palpatine. I will help destroy the Death Star. So
that's true.
I will eventually.
He's like, I did take it up all the way to the top.
I did.
I lost you billions of dollars and a lot of man force.
Yeah, paid the ultimate price though, but worth it.
I know.
Some would say in the end. But we could be talking about like these episodes forever. There's so many little details that we probably didn't even touch on. But like, there's too much and like only so little time to talk about it. But before we start wrapping up, we always like to speculate about what's going to happen like in the next couple of episodes. So Dom, do you have any theories about like what's going to happen next? Because I didn't expect this beach side quest with the prison time. Some people say, oh crap, like what's going to happen now? So like now we're in completely uncharted territory. So what do you think is going to happen going forward? Yeah.
I think he might go back to Ferrix. I don't know what, where, and why, but I think he might end up there for a little bit. And I think, because fandoms are obsessed with cameos, I think we might get, maybe not a full on, but I do think we might see Palpatine, whether it's the back of him. I think that is coming, or like just the voice,
a hologram or something.
Yes, I think that. But otherwise from that, I don't know where he
got mentioned. Palpatine got mentioned twice.
Well, that's the thing. I thought we were gonna see him in this episode, because when Jularan is there at the ISB, he says like, "Oh, the Emperor's gonna like summon a special session of the Senate so that he can enact all these things." I'm like, "Oh, we're going back. We're gonna see Palpatine here." Ian McDermott like probably filmed that when he was filming Obi-Wan Kenobi. Double dip, get a double paycheck. Ian McDermott. My boy. But unfortunately no Palpatine this episode. So maybe there's gonna be like on the HoloNet.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope so. Nani, what do you think?
Well, I'm always wrong. Because I said we were gonna go to Ferrix at all, like in this episode yet, that he was gonna keep searching for his sister. I think he is gonna be in a prison.
Yeah.
I think his identity is going to be flagged, and I think we might get a Saw Gerrera prison break, because we know Saw is showing up at some point.
Yeah.
But why do you think Saw would care to break him out?
We knew from when, was it Skeen, the one that got killed, the one that tried to backstab everybody?
Yeah.
He had already mentioned about Saw, like if you were with Saw, so we know the network is up and running. So I think there's no way he's getting out of prison without any help this time.
True.
So either Luthen goes back on his whole loophole thing, whatever, or he was already flagged as somebody that did help the rebellion already, and is actually the one that got away with the Aldani incident, because without Andor, that thing would have never worked.
Interesting.
And maybe it would be flagged that this is somebody who's important. Maybe Saw was even hired to go and murder him before he talked. That's something Saw would be hired to do. And then meets him and decides, I'm going to break you out. So I'm always wrong, though, but I love to speculate.
Yes, it's always fun.
As long as it's responsible, and we don't let that get in the way of our expectations in the show.
Exactly.
I think that's the problem with some fans. They're like, my theory is the only thing that's right, and if they don't do
and then if it's wrong,
and it doesn't happen, I'm so mad. Yeah. I mean, that's why I try to have my own theories, but I also try not to listen. I'm like, that would be cool, but whatever's going to happen is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm excited to see what does happen,
Exactly. I'd rather be surprised I'd rather see something that because if you are always
I actually like when I'm wrong, it's like, ooh, I didn't expect that. Yay.
You're like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I love that better. Yeah. So
but but we'll see. Only less than a week till we get to see episode 8 and see what's gonna be happening. So very, very excited for everything. But before we wrap up everything, Dom, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much fun.
Why don't you let people know where they can find you on the socials?
Yeah. So you can find me. I'm mainly active on TikTok and Instagram. It's just my full name, Kayla D Soto. The D is my middle name, Dom. So KaylaDSoto. Also on Twitter. Also, I did if you want to see more of my face, but not so niche specific nerd content, I just got a new job with a Latino-owned hair company called Rizos Curls, and I'm helping on their TikTok and Instagram. So pop in there. Really great ingredients, great brand. The CEO, everyone's great. It's just very empowering being surrounded by a bunch of empowered, strong Latina women and being a part of that. So you can check me out there too. But yeah, that's mainly. And then hopefully, maybe in the future, check me out on the big screen because I did go to school for acting, and that's what I'm actively pursuing. So
awesome, yes.
And your curls do look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I will leave links down in the description below, so it's easier for everyone to find it. Please go and check it out and follow, do all the things. So thank you so much for joining. Really good conversation. We hope we get to chat with you again, or see you actually talk at the next premiere
at the Mandalorian.
At the Mando season 3.
Yes,
season 3,
yes. Come on, Lucas, Phil.
Come on. Just in case.
Por favor, un poquito.
Please. But with that, Nani, sign us off.
We are Triad of the Force. Thank you for joining us for tonight. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Just search for Triad of the Force. We are everywhere except for TikTok because we are old when we don't know how that works. But we're on Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else. We have a few cool t-shirts. So subscribe, ring that bell, give us some comments. You like us, you hate us. It's all in good fun.
Hate watch is accepted too. Yes.
But until next time, may the Force be with you.